Yo, hey, this shit easy, nigga. Hey, all I'm talking about, nigga, I'm still out here trying to get it.
Contender Regime Boxing, checking back in with y'all, man. What's happening? So I wanted to talk about Errol the True Spence Jr. and his crusade to become undisputed champion at 147 pounds. And, everything that's leading up to the Terrence Crawford fight, which I do believe is going to happen. Errol Spence Jr.'s next fight versus Yordenis Ugas is going to be announced any day now. Everybody's just waiting on Fox to put their card out, of course, put their schedule out. Of course, Showtime, they already dropped their schedule for the next 5 or 6 months, loaded with really good fights. And, I'm expecting to hear, like I said, any day now, Errol Spence Jr. versus Yordenis Ugas unification match for the WBC, IBF, WBA, and the Ring Championship will all be on the line in that fight. So, a while back, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, the talk around that fight started to bubble and just grow and grow and grow. And, Errol Spence came out and said, look, man, there's this thing called size of the street, something that even Tim Bradley, who was a fighter at Top Rank and also to this day works with Top Rank as a boxing analyst and commentator. So even that's something that he even acknowledged. People asked Tim Bradley about why he didn't fight Errol Spence, why he chose to retire, or why he just simply didn't fight Errol Spence when Errol Spence got up in the rankings for his title. He said, size of the street. Everybody knows. This is what Tim Bradley said. Everybody knows that Bob Arum and Al Heyman ain't doing no business. And at that time, Bob Arum had the bulk of the welterweight. So that's why you saw Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez fighting hella times. You saw Pacquiao and Bradley. All those guys was just mixing it up on that side. So, like I said, that's something that even Tim Bradley had acknowledged. So Errol Spence came out and said, look, man, Terrence Crawford on the wrong side of the street. That's where he chose to sign with. Look at what we got on my side. We got Sean Porter, who Errol Spence fought and beat for the WBC title. You got Danny Garcia, who Errol Spence also fought and beat. You got Yordenis Ugas. This is what Errol was saying at the time. You got Yordenis Ugas over here, who's Errol about to fight right now. Keith Thurman. We all know the Errol Spence and Keith Thurman story, right? And, he was just saying, like, we got a whole lot of fighters at the welterweight division over here who has belts and a lot of big fights that could be made. So I'm going to clean up my side of the street. And if Terrence Crawford is still standing at the end of all this, because he has a WBO belt that at the time he had just beat Jeff Horn for. So he was saying, look, if he's still there, then we can link up. You clean up your side, I'm going to clean up my side, and we're going to link up for Undisputed. And I know as fans, and I'm in the same boat with y'all, because I want to see these fights right now. I want to see the best. I'm an advocate for the best fighting the best as soon as possible, immediately. But something that we gotta give Errol Spence Jr. credit for is keeping his word. Errol Spence, he told everybody what his plan was and what he was gonna do. And when you think about it, bro, it makes sense. If you telling me that I got all these guys in-house, they all do business with the same people I do business with, and we can make these fights easier than dealing with Bob Arum, who has a long history of lowballing guys and being cheap and just simply not wanting to ante up, right? So that's what Errol Spence meant when he said, why don't I just take the easy route and go knock off Sean Porter and Danny Garcia and all these guys? What he meant was, on the business side, it's way easier to make these fights. I don't have to jump through no hoops. I ain't got to jump through no loops. I ain't got to get on my knees and beg motherfuckers. Like, we can make these fights in due time. And everything Errol Spence said that he was going to do, he doing it. And one thing I want to commend Errol Spence for is him truthfully and genuinely wanting to be undisputed, which that is a receipt of being the best in the world in your division. If you become undisputed champion, there's nobody who can say that they are better than you, because on paper, it shows that you are the guy. You have all the belts. You are the one and only true champion in that division. And for Errol Spence, with him, going overseas to take Kell Brooks' belt, then ultimately unifying with Sean Porter for the WBC. Now he's about to fight Yordenis Ugas for the WBA. And he's literally continuing his crusade at becoming the undisputed world champion at 147. And like I said, that's something that you got to commend, and I truly believe that if he's able to beat Yordenis Ugas, which I'm expecting one of Errol Spence Jr.'s best performances versus Yordenis Ugas. I just did a live show on Merlot Friday. Shout out to everybody that came through Merlot Fridays. We talked about how guys like Jerron Boots Ennis are making everybody else in the division better. Errol Spence, he was on the FaceTime with Jerron Ennis. He see what's going on. Like, it's time to make a statement. It's time for these guys to level up and up their game and go to just a different level when it comes to their intensity, the skill, the ability, everything, the mindset, everything gets elevated when you got guys like Jerron Boots Ennis coming up and putting pressure and putting the whole division on notice pretty much. So I'm expecting Errol Spence to put on a great performance versus Ugas. I think the stylistic matchup for him is favorable. Ugas is no walk in the park, strong, physically strong guy. Ugas might be, to this day, the most physically strong guy that Earl's been in the ring with, as far as like actual pro fight. So Ugas is a strong guy, Cuban background, very skilled, very fundamental, goes to the body, does everything right. But I just feel like his style is going to match up well with Errol Spence. And with that fight being right there on the cusp, let's say Errol Spence goes in there, he's successful, he gets that belt. The only belt left for him to get is the WBO belt that Terrence Crawford holds to be undisputed. Now, I believe that, they going to find a way to make that fight happen. Simply because, number one, Errol Spence wants to be undisputed. I think they're going to find some way to accommodate Terrence Crawford and make him comfortable enough to take whatever the terms are. You know what I'm saying? They might do 50-50, whatever. I don't care what the number is, but I believe that they going to, get on the phone or have a meeting behind closed doors and they going to talk about it. Number one, Errol Spence, he want to be undisputed. So I don't think he going to let no money get in the way of him being undisputed. I can't see that, because his whole goal, his whole crusade is about being undisputed at welterweight. That's what he want. You know what I'm saying? And you can see how serious he about it is, by after the car crash, he came back and he jumped right in the ring with Danny Garcia because he wanted to get his feet wet with an elite or a top guy that was gonna push him, that was gonna make him, be on his toes and make sure that a guy that was gonna, where he couldn't go in there half stepping and get a win. He had to be on his shit to beat somebody like Danny Garcia coming off of a layoff like that and coming off of a damn near life-ending car crash. You know what I'm saying? So that right there alone showed me that he was serious about this undisputed shit and about fighting the best. So I don't think he's going to allow some money to get in the way of him being undisputed. And another thing, Terrence Crawford. I think things are going to look a lot clearer for Terrence Crawford once Errol Spence gets that third belt, because Terrence Crawford is also going to have an opportunity to do something that only Clarissa Shields has done in the 4-belt era, to become undisputed in 2 different weight classes. Terrence Crawford was undisputed at 140. He would now have an opportunity to be undisputed at 147. Some shit that only Clarissa Shields has done in the 4-belt era. Of course, the only other fighter that ever did it was Evander Holyfield in the 3-belt era at cruiserweight and heavyweight. So both guys have an opportunity to make history. So I really see that fight happening once Errol Spence does get that third strap. You know what I'm saying? It's just gonna be too much on the line. You dig what I'm saying? So, but I just wanted to put emphasis and shed light on the fact that everything Errol Spence said that he was gonna do, he's doing it. That's something that you gotta commend. That's something that you gotta respect. You know, if Errol Spence was out here just fighting regular motherfuckers and not trying to collect belts and still not making the Terrence Crawford fight happen, I would have a serious problem with that. But the fact that he's going the smart route by trying to get all the titles that he can get, so when they do fight, it's undisputed. You know, there's no stone gonna be left unturned. You know, all the marbles on the line, all the bragging rights, everything on the line. Whoever win this shit, you the motherfucking man, period. Can't nobody say shit. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's something that you gotta respect. You can't shit on that, and you can't turn your, you can't sneeze at that. You know, you can't sneeze at that. That is some legendary shit what Errol Spence is trying to pull off right now. Some legendary shit. So y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments, man. You know, have y'all been tracking the timeline and paying attention to everything that's been going on? And do you see how this shit is unfolding? Him sticking to everything that he said that he was gonna do as far as trying to get all the belts on the PBC side, all the guys that would be easier fights to make on the business side of things. People give him a whole lot of shit about that. But when you think about it at the end, bro, a lot of motherfuckers gonna be looking crazy. A lot of motherfuckers gonna be looking real stupid if Errol Spence is able to do everything that he's setting out to do right now. And I mean, he's doing it. He's actually doing this shit. So y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments, man. Contender regime boxing. I'll holler at y'all boys, man.